Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we will be going over a few bits and bobs, not from the forums but from WoW itself. We are going to be looking at 11.1, we're going to be looking at elemental rune dungeons and player housing. So as always, we have the weekly news with a little bit extra this week. So, Kordak, the Dormant Protector, is your world boss for the week. You have Wrath, Time Walking, and Arenas as your bonus events for the week. Wrath, Time Walking, you can obviously earn Time Walking badges and collect certain bits and bobs towards mounts, cosmetics, etc. And for arenas, you simply gain more honor by doing these arenas, which allows you to help gear, allows you to get some more bloodstones, etc, etc. Deepwing Dunk is your brawl for the week. Deepwing Dunk is essentially a battleground that has been made into a basketball court. You have to take one of three orbs, it can be all three if you really wanted, and you dunk it into the enemy's base, essentially, to earn points. It's very simple. Ascendant and Fortified are your mythic affixes for the week. Ascendant is, I believe, you just have to kill the ad and essentially kill the ad quickly before it buffs the other mobs in the pack that you're pulling. Very simple. And Fortified, the non-boss enemies have increased health and damage, so make sure you bring a talent build that can accommodate for that. As for the extra news, I have been away for the past few weeks. I did as many episodes as I could. I'm sorry that there were a couple of episodes that weren't up like during them weeks. I think it was last Wednesday and this Wednesday that didn't get episodes. But I tried to prepare all that I could. But I am back now, and we're going to be doing regular scheduling. This is why this one's coming out a bit late, as I just it's getting back into the swing of things. So everything should be very smooth and fluent from here on out. So apologies for anyone who missed out on the Wednesday episodes, but they will be returning as of next week, and regular scheduling will carry on. So apologies again, but I am here. Let's talk about WoW and everything that has been thrown at us in the past few weeks, essentially. So we're going to start off with 11.1, the Undermined. Now, this release date is as of next week and a half. Yeah, essentially a week and a half away from when we are now. So 25th of Feb is the release date. This is 25th for NA, 26th for EU. This comes with a lot of different things. So it starts with Plunderstorm ending on the 25th. Plunderstorm will be going away, so you will not be able to collect any of the cosmetics, mounts, anything like that until Plunderstorm has returned. So please keep this in mind. If you are wanting any of these things, you have to go and farm them now. They will be returning. I don't know when, though. No one knows when. That's the thing. You also have a zone overview of this is a zone overview of the Undermined, I should say. It's essentially a goblin capital city, okay? It's their trade empire, and you're going to see a lot of gizmos, gadgets, and sort of rough-looking mechanical stuff, is the best way to put it. You have 4 major cartels: Bilgewater, Blackwater, Steamweedle, and the Venture Company. All of these that you can associate with and earn extra rep throughout the week, okay? This does not mean when you align yourself with one, you miss out on rep for the other 3. This means that you just get more with that reputation. Okay, it's that simple. There is obviously Drive. Now, Drive is the equivalent of dragon riding. You get a very high speed vehicle, and this speed can be altered depending on what you want. Do you want more top speed? Do you want more acceleration? Do you want more handling, etc.? Same with braking and drifting, etc. It looks really good, it looks really fun, and I think that this is actually going to be, like I've said in previous episodes, a undervalued feature in the game itself. It really, really will be. You obviously have the cartels that you want, but new delves are going to be added, okay? So there is Excavation Site 9 and Side Street to Selous. Selous? Yeah, that's how you say it. So these two are going to be launched at the start of the patch. There is going to be a new tank specialization for Bran for those healers who want Bran to actually do something and tank for them in Delves. And it will introduce new rewards, new curios, new nemesis, a new nemesis, sorry, I should say, not new nemesis, nemesi. But essentially, this was, I forget his name. You know the big guy who's in the bottom left of Azj-Kahet, where you can, it's just question mark difficulty and then question mark difficulty. I've completely forgotten his name. But essentially, this is the new nemesis. This is your new sort of top tier delve content that you want to do, essentially. Improved rewards at a higher difficulty, and Season 2 will also increase the difficulty of all delves from Tier 4 and above. Okay, so for Tier 4 or Tier 3 and below, you can still level your characters in them, but Tier 4 and above of the old delves, you're going to still find very challenging, so you do not have to... It keeps them relevant, essentially. It keeps them relevant. New PvP arena, Cage of Carnage. I'm not going to lie, not excited for it. Looks a little bit tedious of a map, but we'll just have yet to see. We'll just have to see, really. New user interface updates. These are the ones that I'm actually quite looking forward to. So these are like the campsites available for your warband. You have the Onaran one, you have the base one, and then a couple others that you can unlock via achievements and stuff like that. Now, it is Onaran Overlook, Holtis Quay, yeah, and Feywold Spring, which is the goblin capital like look. They don't look bad. Personally, I think I'm going Onaran. The Onaran one just looks so good compared to the others. It is what it is. You will also have War Within Season 2 starting. Now, this starts a week after the release, so this is the 4th of March. And this is when new mythic dungeons and stuff start coming up, new PvP season, and this is when you can start getting ahead of the curves and stuff. Keystone Master achievement, rewards from Mythic Plus, Gladiator rewards from PvP. Good luck with that. Gladiator is an all-time low at the moment because of the lack of inflation, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. The Liberation of the Undermine obviously comes out with the new season as well. For those who want to do the Raid Finder part of it, you have March 4th is the Raid Finder Wing 1. So you have Shock and Awesome, the Carnage or Cauldron of Carnage, normal, heroic, mythic difficulty, obviously. Then you have week 2, you have Mechanical Mechanist? Oh my god, yeah, how did I say Mechanist wrong? These are Sprocket Monger, Lock and Stock, Sticks Bunk Junker, and the Story Mode. The Story Mode, again, I'm really glad that that's coming back. For the raid, I think that this is very good for the game itself. Week 3, you have Two Heads Are Better, is the name of the wing. Vesix and the Gear Grinders, One Arm Bandit and Mugsy as your bosses. And then finally, week 4 is the Chrome King, which is Gallywix. Now, I haven't done any of the stories in the PTR. I haven't looked at them. I don't want to be spoiled. But I do know that there are multiple things within Raid. Or I would like to know why Gallywix is suddenly back. Obviously, all of that stuff. I have some idea. I'm not going to spoil it here for you guys. I will not do that because I know some people don't want to. But it's good. I think that it's very good. I think that it's very keeping with the current expansion. And I think that's the good part, because usually a 0.1 patch goes off on a little bit of a divergence. It's like, oh, let's just go here, for example, randomly. Not randomly, but like, oh, we need this artifact all of a sudden. Let's go to this pretty lush forest or something to find it. And it's kind of like, okay, not really sure about that, but, you know, it is what it is. I think it's looking good. 11.1's looking very good. I just hope... My main concern with WoW at the moment is the arena side of things and the fact that there is a lack of inflation in arenas, and it causes a lot of downsides to people playing PvP and playing arena in general, and it's not fun. It really isn't, and I think Blizzard need to address this. They need to look at the PvP side of things and be like, we either need a completely new sort of baseline for our rating system, or we need to just do something to give it a longevity throughout the season, because everyone just plays at the end of the season when inflation's the highest, when people actually are pushing glad, stuff like that. And it's just a bit sad, because throughout the season, those who actually want to PvP don't really get to as much, or there isn't as much like variety or fun in it, because you're playing the same teams at higher ratings and stuff like that. So you need to try and inject something to give people the incentive to play throughout the season. And I really hope that they address that very soon. It won't be in this patch. I know that it won't be in this patch or even the next patch, but please, for the love of God, just before midnight, I want an overhaul of kind of like what they did with Solo Shuffle, where they introduced it at the end of, Shadowlands, before going into Dragonflight, so that it got people used to it. Same with the Battleground Blitz, they introduced it just before this season, so that they went, oh, okay, yeah, we'll add it as an actual rated system. And it's like, oh, great, yeah, that's amazing. I want them to test that. I need them to test this stuff for arenas, like the rating system. Overhaul the rating system, please. I beg. That's the one thing I ask. I ask it for Christmas this year, Blizzard. Please, just do it. But yeah, let's move on to Elemental Rune Dungeons. They are called Protocol Twilight, is available in Cataclysm as of when the Hour of Twilight comes out. So, what do? Essentially, they're the Mythic Plus equivalent for Cataclysm. They are not available for Zulaman and Zul'Gurub due to the already advanced rewards from ZG and ZA. But it is intended to start, these item levels are intended to start at 353. That was what was in the PTR. And essentially, these should drop Raid Finder Dragon Soul tier, or gear, okay? So it's not going to be insanely tough, but it is still going to be a tough dungeon, and you will reap the rewards from doing these dungeons. So, upon activating Protocol Twilight, a floating elemental will appear, and all 5 players in the group will need to channel it. Elemental Rune, Protocol Twilight dungeons can be queued for by using the automated group finder tool. This is very good, and will require a minimum item level of 353. That's very good, that makes sense. There are 2 new buffs, a Twilight Madness buff for the creatures in the dungeon, and a Gift of the Dragonflight buff for players. The Twilight Madness buff will be applied to all creatures in the dungeon. All creatures and bosses in the dungeon will gain increased health and damage, the usual. All bosses will gain the ability called the Blood of Shuma, which summons slimes that empower the boss. This works similarly to Yoshaj's Cool Blood of Shuma. This is a boss within the Dragon Soul raid, and will help players prepare for the raid. Every 65 seconds, really weird, the boss has a chance to spawn 3 different globules that is how you say that, yeah, that path towards the creature that summoned them. When one globule dies, the surviving globules become immune to damage. When a globule reaches the boss, they are infused with one of the following powers. So glowing glob grants minor glowing blood. This increases the attack speed of the creature. Cobalt, which is Mana Voids, leeches all mana from ranged spellcasters and the healer. Defeating the Mana Void will return all of the mana stolen. So this is the one that you kind of want to kill. Crimson will be... the creature will sear 3 random players with fire damage. The further the damage or the target is from the creature, the more damage they take. So you just stack. Very simple. You always kill the mana one, essentially, then. Always. Very simple. Dark Glob summons Forgotten Ones that fixate onto a random player. That's not too bad. Acid Glob targets a random player and inflicts nature damage to them and any nearby players within 4 yards, spread out. And Shadowed Glob targets every player and causes the 5th heal or absorb effect to trigger shadow damage to all players. This effect should last less than 25 seconds. Okay, not too bad. Players will be able to choose one of the Gift of the Dragonflight buffs that will be applied when they are in the dungeon. You can get the red Dragonflight, bronze, green, and blue. So for the red, if a player dodges, blocks, or parries, they will cast an AoE Fire Breath. This is the tank. Bronze, the player gains a stacking haste buff while not taking damage. Stacks fall off if the player takes damage. Probably DPS. Green is healing done increases the damage done, and damage done increases the healing done. This would be a healer. And a gift of the blue is while not moving, the player gains a stacking damage buff. Stacks fall off if the player moves. Now, personally, bronze one sounds the best. Genuinely sounds the best. And for DPS, green I think is amazing because green incentivizes healers to not just stand there AFK like some do in Classic. You are incentivized to do damage as a healer in Cataclysm and from patches after this, like expansions after this. So this is incentivizing people to get used to that. For the red dragonfly, very easy. That's the tank. Just passive AoE damage. Very nice. The blue you can obviously be a DPS with, but I think that you're going to move a lot more than you are going to take damage a lot more. So yeah, I think that bronze DPS, green healer, red for tanks. Very simple. The currency from the dungeon, you get the 2 obsidian fragments per boss, and the final boss of each dungeon will drop an extra 3 if the players have defeated all of the other bosses in the dungeon. This is the same as the previous one, which is Protocol Inferno. The loot from dungeons, each boss in the Twilight Protocol dungeons will drop 1 looking for raid weapon, or 1 looking for raid jewelry, which is a cloak, neck, trinket, or ring. A predetermined looking for raid weapon and jewelry drop, which is very good. This is very much, I want to do this dungeon because it drops this specific weapon, which is very good. A looking for raid token, which is good. And a chance at 1 of 15 random looking for raid tier tokens. Very good. All of these will also be available via the vendor. Very, very good. This is such a good way of doing it. This is already way better than the Protocol Infernal. Really is. The new currency, the obsidian fragments, will also be used to purchase the following gear. Dragon Soul looking for raid gear, normal tier 12 helm tokens, normal tier 12 shoulder tokens. So these are really important to get, by the way. Wait, tier 12 is Firelands. Yeah, tier 12 is Firelands. Still very good. Still very, very good. All normal difficulty Firelands weapons, which is very, very good. Normal difficulty Ragloot, and all bind on pickup random saturated items, aka flickering gear from heroic Firelands. This is what you're going to be spending most of your obsidian fragments on. Do not discard this at all. That is going to be very good gear. This gear will be purchased via a satchel, and the item stats will be generated once the item is removed from the bag. Very simple. The satchel also contains a chance to drop the mounts from Firelands, which is Flame Talon of Elisrazor and the Smouldering Egg of Milagazor. I sound like I'm saying that completely wrong. But yeah. The following trinkets: Matrix Restabilizer, Vessel of Acceleration, Variable Pulse Energy Capacitor, all of the very good trinkets. It has a chance to be in one of these like satchels as well. Okay, it's very simple. Commendation of Service, the Justice Points conversion item, and also Obsidian Fragments to Fisher Stone Fragments. Very simple. There are a few issues, but they have ironed these out since, so I'm not going to be going over them, essentially. Honestly, it's looking really good. The Protocol dungeons are looking very, very solid. A lot better than the Infernal dungeons, and I'm glad that they are actually looking at these things and being like, yeah, they need this in Cataclysm, essentially. They need this shit in Cataclysm, otherwise it's just going to be boring. It really is. So, the last thing I wanted to look at is a first look at player housing. This was released about a week ago. So, I'm going to go through it. So, this is the entire article, by the way. We're excited to kick off our first look at player housing in World of Warcraft and share some of our philosophies and plans for this new feature with you. First up, we're focusing on a high-level design pillars of housing, as well as taking a few key areas of housing as we lay the foundation for future discussions. We have lots to cover, so let's jump in. So, fortifying housing with pillars. When developing such a large new feature, it is useful to start first by defining its pillars. They help the development team by get on the same page before we start building. as well as providing a guiding light when making decisions and identifying priorities. It's important to note that while these pillars are broad in scope by their nature, they aren't full encompassing. Just because something isn't mentioned in the pillar doesn't mean it's not important or isn't part of the future, which is very good. I think they need to be open to this because it's a big step for WoW. So, 3 main points: boundless self-expression, deeply social, and long-lasting journey. Boundless self-expression are high priority as to allow players to build a house that shows off their own personal tastes or their warbands, act as a desired backdrop for role-playing, or just allows players to create something in a flight of fantasy. The tool set should be easy enough for someone with no 3D experience to be comfortable with and use successfully. This is very good because I am awful with building stuff. But it should also be powerful enough that players can surprise us with their creations or drill down to get the tiniest details just right. The gaunt of decor options spans not just the cultures of Azeroth, but many expansions of World of Warcraft as well. This is very good. Deeply social. This is the big one for me. This is the big one. World of Warcraft is more fun with other players, and housing should be no different. While players can enjoy housing purely on their own, okay, so you're just on your own, that's fine if you want. Its systems are designed at a fundamental level to encourage interacting, playing, and progressing with friends, neighbors, guilds, and a wider community in a meaningful way. This is amazing. So, they go on about this later on, so we'll come back to it. Long-lasting journey. Housing is being built as an evergreen addition to the game, with its own roadmap reaching across multiple patches and into future expansions. Housing isn't something players should expect to finish, but instead continue to look forward to the next housing release, be it new content or systems. This is a long-term commitment for us as developers and offers players rewards along the way. This is amazing. If it needed to be an evergreen feature. It really needed to be, and I'm glad that they did see that. One more important note: even though it's not an explicit pillar, wide adaptation is a primary consideration for us as well. Most players should want a house in Azeroth, and if a player wants a house in Azeroth, they can have a house in Azeroth furthermore. Housing is being designed to scale with players' interests. If someone wants to spend dozens of hours a week on their house, that's great. If they're only interested in coming along and going once or twice a month, that's great too. My personal opinion on player housing: this is where I'm going to spend all of my arena queue time. I love the cities, but there are some things that are just important. Okay, so in Dragonflight, where you spent most of your time queuing for the arenas was outside the PvP vendor, along this little strip of road. In Dornogal, you are based around this little stone hammer monument, and you're just running around in a circle. In Shadowlands, you were in the airport called Oribos, and you were just running rings around the entire city. That was it. In your player housing, you can queue with your... I'm really hoping that this is it. With your own music playing, whatever music you want in WoW, your own decor, your own little house. You can decorate your house whilst in queue. You can mess around with your house. How amazing is that? Because I like to go to Lion's Rest in Stormwind when I'm queuing sometimes and just listen to the music. And I find it's so much better. It's so much calming after an arena game. And I think that this will be really important. Not just for those who want to do, obviously, player housing, but for those who queue certain things like solo shuffle. Solo shuffle, you wait a decent amount of time, but the thing is, you got nothing to do in that time. You can go herb, mine, but that's kind of boring. If you want to decorate your house, yeah, amazing. How amazing is that? So that's the important thing for me. Now, zoning in on home. We've seen a lot of discussion and speculation from the community on where players will be able to have houses. We've decided early on that there will be 2 housing zones available at launch, one for the Alliance and one for Horde. This makes sense, with more possible places to live in the future. The Alliance zone takes inspiration from Elwyn Forest with touches of Westfall and Duskwood. Very good. The Horde is inspired by Durotar, its coastline, and Azshara. Bit more depressing, but okay. I'm not going to lie, Alliance win there all day. There are two main reasons for this decision. Having many housing zones conflicts with a second pillar of design or designing a feature that is deeply social in a world where players can live in many different zones. They become increasingly spread out, and even with aggressive sharding, the chance of seeing other players, much less interacting with them, drops quickly. Okay, very good, makes sense. Putting it bluntly, zones are a lot of work. We'd much rather do a great job with a smaller number of zones than do a passable job on a large number, or come up with solutions that take the player out of the world into their own personal instance of a zone. I think that this is a personal opinion of mine, but I think that that's a very good reason to do it. It is a lot of work, I would imagine, so I can understand this. We choose these as our starting points because of how iconic they are for their respective factions and how much they feel like at home to so many players already. Now, the logical answer for the next zones would be something like Teldrassil, Darkshore, and Ashenvale for Alliance. And then you look at something like Mulgore, maybe Ungoro Crater, and sort of current Desolus, where, you've got that blooming forest maybe for Horde. They're kind of the next zones I would think of that they market it off of, but I think that this is a starting point is very good. We're excited for what we'll be able to accomplish with the two zones, and we'll be sharing more of what this means in future updates. So, outfitting your home. Similarly, there have been discussions in the community on whether housing will be pay to / pay win or not. It should never be pay to win, along with other conversations about real world money. We've been very aligned in our internal conversations that housing is designed to be a primarily player first and not revenue first. It needs to be. For the love of God, for the love of the game, it needs to be. Housing will offer hundreds and hundreds of decorations, and house customizations via in-game rewards will also offer a smaller number of items with a cash shop as well. This is comparable to how transmogs and pets are currently handled in the game versus the shop. We want to allow players who have as many options as possible for creating their perfect home in Azeroth. I don't like that they're putting small things in the cash shop. I absolutely despise that. I'm not going to lie. I get that it's only going to be a small handful of things, but it just leaves a little bit of a sour taste. A home for everyone. As part of our focus on wider adoption, we want to ensure that housing is available to everyone. If you want a house, you can have a house. No exhibition required or high purchase costs. No lotteries and no onerous upkeep. I don't know what that word is. And if your subscription lapses, don't worry, your house won't get repossessed. So it will stay there with your account, like all your characters. And once you pay for another subscription time, it will stay there, which is good. Your houses are also shared amongst your warband with your other different characters, being able to come and go as they see fit. So your Orc character can hang out in your Alliance house without a problem. Housing rewards are also shared across your warband. You'll be able to use the decor collections no matter which character earns it, which is really good. Furthermore, it's not just warbands that cross faction lines, but friendship as well. So you'll be able to live in or visit your friends or guildmates' house and their neighborhoods with minimal restrictions regarding faction. For example, while it's not possible for your human character to buy a house in a horde zone, your troll character in the same warband can, and your human can use it as if it was their own, which is very, very good. I think that is very good. I love that you can share houses. I really do. I think that's an amazing part of it. Before we go, we want to mention the concept of neighborhoods as a small tease. Houses are organized into roughly 50 plot neighborhoods, letting players live next to each other, work together, and share in the rewards of being part of a neighborhood. Neighborhoods are instanced, but crucially also persistent to your neighborhood, so can be neighbors for years to come or until one of you moves. Neighborhoods can also come in two flavors: public, which the game servers are responsible for creating as needed and maintaining, or private, created by groups of friends or guilds to inhabit, progress and customize together. I love this. I absolutely adore how they've done this already. So while an individual player can have a house, a community can have a neighborhood. Very good. This is an initial look at the housing, essentially, and I think that it's amazing. I think that the player housing and what it's shaping up to be is going to be so good for players. I need to see a alpha build of it. I need to see the works of it, how it's performing just in-game alone, because I think that it's going to be absolutely amazing, and I would love to just see how customizable these houses are. Genuinely, I want to know, do you just have a base house line that you dump down, like a night elf house, a human house, a dwarf house, and then it's like, yep, customize the inside? Or can you build it like Sims? It's like, oh, I want this sort of, protruding area of the house. I want like a conservatory area, and you build it like that, and you have like a 50 by 50 plot of land kind of deal. I'm really curious to see, but we've not gotten any of that info yet. But this is very, very promising. So promising, and I think that it's very good. But that is where I will end it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Do check out all of the Patreon stuff. There's constant stuff happening over there, as well as Etsy. Multiple things going up on the Etsy shop. Stuff like Frostmourne, Ashbringers, even stuff going out of WoW into like D&D stuff. It's all up there, all for you to look at. Please do check it out. I'd really appreciate it. And once again, we will be going back to regular scheduling now that I'm back. Sorry for any of the inconveniences for those who listen on Wednesdays and stuff, but it will be back to normal as of next week. Thank you all very much for listening, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.